So Hunger Games actor Sam Claflin is speaking out about male body insecurity within the entertainment industry. So he's promoting his new movie, My Cousin Rachel, which looks awesome. And while doing some press for it, he had the following to say about just body shaming and etc. in Hollywood. He says, quote, "I remember doing one job when they literally made me pull my shirt up and were grabbing my fat and going, 'You need to lose a bit of weight.'" He told this to the Sydney Morning Herald. "This other time they were slapping me. I felt like a piece of meat." He goes on to say, "I read in an interview recently and I think it's absolutely true. Men have it just as bad." Well, not just as bad, but they get it bad and it's never talked about. He also wants to say that he thinks there are different standards of beauty in today's Hollywood than is Hollywood of old. He says in the 1950s and 60s, it was never an issue. James Bond never had a six-pack, he had a hairy chest. Marlon Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire was a dreamboat. He didn't say that, but it's true. Had an incredible body, but he was by no means ripped to within an inch of his life. There's a filter on society that this is normal, but actually it's anything but normal. So this is, I think, kind of an interesting conversation, Jack, because as a total outsider, well, I mean, I have eyes, but I guess I wasn't really aware that there was this sort of male body shaming. That's a word that we typically associate with women who definitely come down, who have been shamed for however their bodies fall or however they're built, and there's pressure to look a certain way. But I guess I had never really considered the flip side with men, and I think that he made a really interesting point, pointing out old Hollywood standards. Yeah. And Jimmy Stewart, I don't know if I've ever seen a shirtless photo of him, but he was very crushable. Yeah. So I'm wondering, were you familiar? I mean, you're a guy.
I mean, I think it's a really real thing.
Is this isolated to Hollywood, or is this something more broad?
I think the whole, and to do the social media thing and talk about like Instagram as being this issue, but we are killing ourselves physically to look like ways that people don't even look. Mm-hmm. Every time you like some guys like, I want to look like this, they're typically on steroids. They're typically being trained professionally constantly. When you look at Hugh Jackman is 42 and has 40 something. And has 3 different wardrobes because he has to change his body so drastically for every role. Like that is not a healthy environment for people to feel even vaguely okay about themselves. It's a really sad thing. I see so many guys talk about it and then get shamed for not even being like, we have it harder than girls or anything like that, but just like, hey, this is really shitty.
So some people are gonna say that if you are working in a visual medium, it's your job. It is literally your job to look however the production wants you to look, because you are, they're your bosses. You should look this way. You're working in movies. What does he have to complain about? How would you respond to something like that?
I mean, we as a society accepted James Bond, like Sean Connery. He was a professional bodybuilder, a semi-professional bodybuilder at the time. Like that was one of the peaks of like male physical performance pre-proliferation of steroids everywhere.
So then what changed? Because is this something that will sort of ebb and flow, or maybe it's a pendulum and it'll swing back the other way? And because Hugh Jackman, even though he's ripped, he's hairy, so there's like one half of that. He's hairy, he's a hairy guy.
A genetic thing that you can't
create. Because we did used to see that the ideal man was hairless. There was a time, I think maybe 2000s, I think, that it was guys would wax their chest.
Yeah,
and that
like
was the look to have.
So do you think that
we could see this sort of swing back?
I mean, I think things have been going bigger and bigger and bigger because of superheroes. Mm-hmm. But I think once the superhero thing kind of dies off, we might get a shift away from it. But right now, the dudes making the most money are gigantic, are geared out of their minds, are huge. And then you see them when they're off sets and don't look like that at all.
And you know what's funny, bringing this back to Sam Claflin too, is that there's such a difference between being in shape and looking in shape, as we would understand it. So Sam Claflin is a pretty in shape guy, but then there was a photo that was shared on Instagram that wasn't him, that looks like a ripped guy, and his face was photoshopped into this photo, and he had to clarify like, hey, this guy looks great. Kudos to whosever body that is. It's not mine though. And I think there is a distinction where it's sort of like, why wasn't he good enough before? He's an in-shape guy.
Yeah,
why did someone, ostensibly maybe a fan of his, have to Photoshop?
This is still not enough.
It's still not enough, and I think that's kind of a weird thing, because I would consider, not now, not this month, but there have been months where I would consider myself an in-shape person, but I also know that were I to and I'm not a guy, never mind. So not about me, but I'm trying to think of like a guy that I know who's in shape, but
do you know a single guy that's in shape that feels good about their body?
Well, I guess I really haven't asked them. Now I feel bad. I should. How are you feeling? Are you okay?
I'm a little pudgy, and my shoulders hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're in shape. You work out like 3-4 times a week, right?
I do. I go to the gym a lot. I enjoy it. I think it's a positive thing, but it does get, when I was doing it really seriously and about like 20 pounds heavier, it was an obsession. And I think that that's healthy in a way, but to the level where we're at culturally about dying women and dudes that haven't had water in 3 days for a scene, we need to reassess our whole understanding of like how the human body should look and what we should reject.
And so a follow-up question too, do you feel pressure from when you watch movies to
look like Bane? Every day. Every day I wake up and I send my personal trainer just pictures of Bane. I'm not kidding. That's all I do is just send him pictures of Bane and Danzig.
So you do feel pressure from body types that are put in front of you by Hollywood or by the media?
Hell yeah, everybody does.
Do you think most guys do too? Because I don't think that, I think it's true that we don't normally talk about that. I think that guys, I have always sort of assumed that how guys work out is sort of their own business, that they want to look however they want to look, and there isn't any sort of projection that they put on themselves from images that they see around them.
I mean, we're all influenced. That would be incredible. We're all so influenced.
Why would I think that?
I mean, the thing that we kind of talked about too is the difference in like what Hollywood wants body-wise for men and what men want. Like men watch strongman competitions and all that, but you don't see that male body in Hollywood. So it is showing this incredible leanness when you get big and fat. To like get to a huge size, you have to get some pretty soft, and then they cut down for 3 weeks and get ridiculously lean, and they're physically ill. They're in a horrible physical shape, and that's what you see when Magic Mike takes his shirt off, and then your girlfriend goes, well, that's what you're supposed, like that's what a hot guy looks like, and then a guy sees like, I see my girlfriend looking at that dude, when that's not a body type you are, that's a body type that you can have for a moment. In the same way when the Victoria's Secret models are like, I drank water like 3 or 4 days ago and looked at an apple.
Basically the longevity, like being able to maintain that is just sort of an undue amount of pressure to.
But you only see those people in that shape.
Yeah.
Except for Channing Tatum in, what was that movie, in Jupiter Ascending. He was a little soft, I'm gonna be honest. Just to do some male, so you can see what male body shaming sounds like. It's me complaining that Channing Tatum wasn't really bringing it to Jupiter Ascending.
I like how this story went full circle. We opened being like, this is something that we should talk about and that we shouldn't do, and then we just tail ended it with like, but Channing Tatum could lose some weight.
Just in that one scene. I totally believe in male body shaming because it's a positive thing.
You do?
Oh yeah, you should talk about your.
I was going to end the video, but now this is a whole conversation.
No, I super do. I don't fall into the idea that we should congratulate everyone all day, every day. But when someone is striving for something and they don't achieve it, I think it's okay to say, you're not doing the thing.
Okay, I feel like that you have to use a different, that sounds like coaching to me. That's so different than shaming. Shaming is someone that is like, if I were to go up to someone,
I wouldn't grab Channing Tatum's fat and be like, hey dude, you're effing
Yeah, like
up.
what Sam Claflin is talking about, unless there was a prior conversation where they said by this date, when you're on set, you need to look like this. There's no reason for them to have treated him in that way.
Yeah.
But if it was like an unsolicited thing where they just came up to him and just lift up his shirt, it's like that's body shaming. That's rude. That's not what you should do.
There's bad ways to do it.
But there is a way to coach someone into having, if they're trying to attain a certain thing. You know, you've coached me before on things. I've coached you before on things. I would never be like, Jack, I went over, hung out with Jack, and he shamed me about finding a job. Like, there are ways to talk through it. I don't think that shame is the right word. But we want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Had you heard about male body shaming before? Had you experienced it? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time on Pop Trigger.